Hey, this is Jared Cochran with Family Church. Welcome to our podcast. I'm excited that you're here. I hope that God moves through this message to reach you so he can move through your life. Be sure to share and subscribe so that we can reach the world with God's word. Enjoy the message.
Welcome back to another wonderful Wednesday on the Family Room. You couldn't hold it together for 5 seconds.
So dumb.
Yes. What?
Oh my gosh, that's loud.
It's not loud. You just don't like the sound
of my voice.
We're here to discuss Sunday's message.
My first intrusive thought, I almost said it out loud. Go ahead.
Don't do it. Sunday's message from my dad this previous Sunday on Palm Sunday.
I like that guy that you see on Facebook. That's him.
On Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok. All of them.
Oh.
Yeah. He went through Genesis 39, talking about when he is with me, talking about when God is with us, going from the life of Joseph while he was in the prison and then in the palace. So yeah, we're going to jump through there. Do you want to go ahead and hit the announcements?
Yeah, I sure will, buddy. So this Sunday is Resurrection Sunday. We hope you show up to the gathering at 10 o'clock. So the next Sunday, April 27th, will be Baptism Sunday. I don't know. Baptism Sunday, and we do ask if you can. Obviously, we'll do spontaneous baptisms, but it just helps us get kind of a head count so we're not standing there awkwardly looking around like anybody else. We know, and we can wait on you if maybe you're changing or what have you. So just go on the website and register for that. We already have about 6 people registered. That's awesome. Really quick, and also the altar workers course. I know I put it out in the app. If you're on a team, if you're in a group and you're in the app, please make sure it's working. I send a lot of updates and a lot of information out in those apps. I don't get much of a response. That's fine, but I just want to make sure that everybody is seeing that stuff because it's the best way for me to get a hold of 85, 90 people without giving them my cell phone number.
Yeah. Oh, and with the app, if you have an Android phone, they're working on getting it updated.
Get an
Something
iPhone.
happened with the Google developer account and all that stuff. So we're having to kind of like redo the Google side of it, the Android side of it. So if you're having issues on an Android phone, just tough it out. A lot of the times, I don't know what else to say other than just try to delete your app, reinstall it, or log out, log back in just to refresh it. They are working on it, so that's getting close. But
Yeah.
I can't do anything about that until they fix it.
So altar workers course, we don't have a set date for that.
No.
Mary and Paul Pearson will be leading that team. I don't know if you want to talk about that in a second, but register for that. That course will be coming up. It's not going to be anything crazy, but it's, yes, if you've already done it in the past, we do ask that you come again, only because this will be, obviously.
It's just revamped and
right.
Going back through
We want to keep everybody on the same page. So that's going to be really cool coming up. Dining with Dignity is May 1st. The Women's Fam Group in person is May 3rd. That will be from 6 to 7:30 p.m. That way the ladies have a chance to go to prayer because that was kind of awkward last time. It wasn't bad, but it was just they had to choose, and that was kind of a bummer. And then child dedication. I won't go into all of this stuff from May because it's it'll be the end of May. But Child Dedication Sunday will be May 4th. That's for ages or up to 8 years old. We do it following baptisms because we ask if kids are under 8 years old, they wait to be baptized so they can fully understand what they're doing. I know our daughter was under 8, but it was kind of a spur of the moment, and other kids jump, and we're not going to say no, and but hold on, let's wait till they're 8. And if you want to dedicate, if they're under 8 years old, dedicate them to the church.
Yes.
And that's so you can register for that. Again, if you forget to register, we're not going to turn you away. It's just a nice way of us knowing who's coming and what we're doing.
Yes, and with that, not to make it like super awkward, but If you've gotten baptized here like every year for the last 3 years, I don't think you quite understand it. It's, obviously, like she was just saying with the kids thing, you need to understand it before you do it. It's supposed to just be that public declaration of your faith. There's no sense in doing it, 19 different times. So, so we're going to be looking for all of that. Was that the last one?
Yeah, I'm not going to go through all of them.
And with the altar workers course, that's just obviously for our altar workers. Paul and Mary Pearson are going to be the leaders of that team. They're going right now through the book to redo everything, kind of look it over, and then we will announce the date for the class. As Kelsey said, if you have previously done it, you will be required to do it again. Now, obviously, we can discuss that in the class, but if you're wanting to pray for other people in the general sense, obviously not someone like or anything like that, we are going to ask that you go through the class, just that you're grounded and you're under headship and everything like that. So,
and the only reason why, and this was actually brought to us from, I think Mary and Paul brought it up, and I think Mark and Brenda had mentioned it very strongly about it before too. It's not to make it this elite club, like only, we're not trying to do that. We're wanting to be mindful on who is praying over people, because as you are in charge of like your flock and you being shepherd, it is your responsibility to make sure we don't have someone that has other intentions, or they're not.
And we've already seen they are starting to creep in and try to do that, and I will shut that down every time.
It's basically just trying to have, this is going to sound bad, but fully trained people up here getting to the people that need prayer first, or if someone is coming up here and there's some suspicions that maybe they're not fully with the best of intentions, altar workers can kind of stand by, be with that person. And it's also another way for where if it's somebody new, they can contact them after they leave, and it's kind of a follow-up program to make sure, hey, even if you're not coming to this church anymore, how are you doing? Did you check out the 21-day devotional, stuff like that. So it's not just so nobody misunderstands what it is.
Yep.
Did you want to answer the question before you go to the discussion? Question number one.
Which one? Well, there's a minute. Chase, we're glad to have you here. There's a minute and a half delay from whatever we say to when you guys get it. So put your question in there, and hopefully I'll see it, and we'll get to it. We're going to dive right in. Discussion question number one is how does truly believing that God is with you change your perspective on facing life's challenges and fears? I feel like I give the same answer so many times for these kinds of questions. Is just that I always, for me, I think for a lot of people that have gone through some type of defining moment or something like that, where you have walked through a hard trial and come out on the other side.
What's happening?
Huh? I don't know. And you come out on the other side. For me, and I think for a lot of people, or how it should be, is that when you enter into like an uncertain moment or a dark moment, and then you fully trust God, and then you see that He meets you in that time of need, or just meets you with whatever that He lifts you out, He delivers you, whatever the case may be, that becomes almost like the 12 stones. I guess what I'm thinking of is like the 12 stones with Joshua, just kind of like, hey man, this is the thing to look back on. It's that defining moment where you could look back on that and be like, well, God brought me through this. So for me, how I truly know and believe that God is with me, and how I enter into every situation now, I go straight back to last year. I think it was around August when I began that one series and was struggling and felt like I needed to just kind of get rid of what I had, and then just go up there with a couple pieces of paper and, just completely rely on God. And ever since then, going through that, because I guess that was one of my biggest fears at the time, that I didn't realize how big of a fear it was kind of almost, I don't want to say relying on myself, but relying on what I had written out more than relying on the Holy Spirit in the moment to speak through me. And so when I let go of that and just fully leaped into trusting Him, man, it just changed everything for me. So that's how I think.
So Chase said, how does God help us? So that's a great question, and that is very broad. So like, how does He help us? So that's like a really deep question. So if you think about it too, we were given free will, right? So here's kind of what immediately popped in my head is because when I was going through issues and I felt like, I felt completely out of control. I was super fearful. I don't like using the word anxious. I hate that word, but I was just in a state of fight or flight. 1,000% flight though, like very little fight, very much flight. So I was, I didn't know how to pray, and some days it was just kind of like I just need help. I knew my issue was I didn't want to be, because I'm like a fainting goat. So I've got this weird thing with my blood pressure, and when I get really, really stressed out, I'm like a fainting goat. Like I will physically pass out. I will physically pass out. So and it happens very randomly. It's happened in the gym before, and it's very embarrassing, and it's like my worst fear in a public situation. That's why I like to stay in the back. That's why I kind of don't like being on stage. I just don't know when it's going to happen. And
it's for a while now.
It's horrible. Well, I feel like it right now. No, it's horrible. So, anyways, there's ways to help with that. You can. And a long time ago in the past, I used to take meclizine. I would take Dramamine when I knew I was going into a situation where it might be like public speaking or something just to keep me calm, or Benadryl or something just to keep me calm. And I remember the times that I was getting ready to go to court, I would sit there and I would reach for Benadryl or something to take, and I was thinking about it, and I was gonna take it. I'm like, I just gotta do it because I don't want to faint in court. Like, oh my gosh, what are they gonna say? Like, she is crazy, you know what I mean? And then I remember thought came into my head, and I'm like, you want help? You're like, God, remove this fear, remove this anxiety, all this stuff from me, but then you're reaching for Benadryl. You know what I mean? How can He help you when you're sitting here numbing or at least using medicine to try to walk yourself through it? You really don't believe, He'll help you.
Yeah.
It can be something as simple as Him helping us in a voice, that quiet just. Well, if you take that, you're not really needing Him. You just kind of want Him to. You want to help Him. You want Him to help you on that. Your Benadryl's going to help you 30%. You want Him to help you the rest of the 70%. Why don't you give it 100% and see if He'll help you 100%?
Yeah.
And then I didn't, and I made it out alive. I didn't faint. I was perfectly fine. I was still nervous, but to me, He helped me in that sense. He helped me grow, take a step forward, not have to sit there and take, a Dramamine just to be calm and not be just completely freaking out in a public speaking, that type of situation. So it's how can He help us? Well, first you have to be open for the help. First you have to actually believe He's going to help you. Because if you sit here on your hand, how's He going to help me? Well, you don't even think He's going to help you. You know what I'm saying? How does that make sense? Mm-hmm. You have to believe He is going. You have to have faith and believe He's actually going to help you.
Yeah, I think a lot of people's problem is just that, just unbelief, and then we
But there's a whole list of ways he can help. He can help in a voice.
And
he
we
can
come
help
with the wrong ideas on
heal.
it.
You know, it's you have to ask, but when you ask, you have to believe.
That, and then also asking according to his will, because I think a lot of times people come to God asking for help with a situation that they've created in their own problems or in their own sin. So, like, you know, it'd be someone that, you know, they go and they drink too much, jump in the car, and then drive, and then they get pulled over and they get a DUI and they get arrested. And they're like, oh, God, help me. You know, I'm going to lose my job. Can you, God, make this go away? And it's like, well, you brought this on yourself. And, you know, you're going to have to face the consequences of your sin. And so a lot of time, you know, people just, we think we want God to just be like the genie. Now, don't get you twisted.
If you get caught in a situation and you're in a jail cell and you're lying on the floor, call out.
But yeah.
Like, don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, I get what you're saying, but I don't want someone to hear that and be like,
no, you're always able to call out to God, you know, during any situation. I mean, it's just that's the nature of it. It's something we will learn about.
But don't manipulate the situation. Don't manipulate. Don't go drinking and driving. Well,
you can't manipulate God. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, you just you take it into your own hands almost. And then a lot of times, like, we do sinful things. And then we end up in a situation, and then we're like, oh, God, I need this to go away. And that's what we want him to do. Like, okay, so like that, you get a DUI, you get arrested, and you're like, God, make this go away. God, make this go away. And it's like, okay, well, maybe he wanted you to get arrested and get in jail because maybe you have a drinking problem that he wants you to take care of and, like, get out of. And then in that moment, you're brought low, you're humbled, which is what he does. He, you know, humbles the proud. And he'll bring you into that low moment, or allow you to be brought in that low moment, rather. That way you will surrender to him, you'll submit to him, and then he can grow you through that. And it's like, you know, like your situation. So you're dealing with, just for lack of a better term, you're dealing with anxiety, and you're taking something to try to numb it, I guess. I don't know how else to put it, but you're trying to dull that sense, that fight or flight sense. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, and you had the thing where, you know, you're praying, God, take it away, God, take it away. Well, a lot of times he doesn't, you know, just remove it how we want. We want him to just sweep it away and be done with it. And it's like, what he did, he didn't take it away from you. He gave you that still small voice to be like, no, you don't need to take that, just rely on me. And then you got through it. So now you can look back and you go, well, you know, this wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. He brought me through it. And it's the same thing with a lot of situations. You know, we come to a bad situation. We're like, oh, God, just take it away. God, take it away. You know, like Gideon with the Midianites and all these, you know, I can't remember the numbers right now off the top of my head. It was like, what, 300,000 or 30,000 to 300 something. It was like a massive difference. And I did the sermon, but I can't remember the number right now. It was a lot. And so, you know, like, you see this bad situation, all of these things surrounding you, and then, you know, all of us were like, oh man, God, just make this away, take care of it. Or, you know, God, take this away, take care of it. And then we don't realize, like, he still asks, like, he's going to do it, but he still asks us to step forward and step through those things. Like, like David said, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you still have to walk through it with him. Mm-hmm. You know, when Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they defied the order to bow down to the statue, God didn't stop them from being thrown into the furnace, but he went into the furnace with them.
It can be, it's like, don't be that guy that sits there and says, you know, like the situation that I went through, it can be, you know, hey, when I said manipulation, I didn't mean manipulating God. I mean, like,
I wasn't saying you were
sitting here and saying, you know, help me get through this, or, you know, help take this away. And he doesn't, and you go, see, God doesn't help anybody. Like, that's, you, like, don't be that guy.
And that's what a lot of people,
I get it, because it's something that I've gone through. I mean, this was a couple, like, years ago, but it was just, you know, full on anger at God. Like, what did I do? You know, like, you killed this thing that was everything to me. That's all I had. And you let it die, like, total freak accident. You let it die. That's all I had. Like, no friends. This is all I had. And it just immediately completely changed my life not for good, you know. And I was pissed, you know. And it was just, I remember it was even at the property we're at now. I remember you were asleep, and it was like one night I went out, and we didn't have any horses. This was before rain, before our first rescue horse. And I went in the pasture, and I was just like screaming and crying because I was so mad that even after all this time, and then I had this whole pasture, and I didn't have my second horse, you know, because of that bad situation. And I was like, this is so cruel. I have all of this. But
now what do you have?
But now, way too many dang animals is what I got now. But you know, I was pissed, and I'm like, I hate you. And I remember just screaming it and just looking at the moon, and the moon was really pretty. But I hate space. But and I just remember just screaming, and I was pissed. I'm like, I hate you. Like, I hate this. You know, why? You know, because he still would have been alive. But
that's, you know, sometimes things just happen, and
sometimes things just happen. I mean,
there's other situations, but God, you know, he helps us. I mean, the fact that we're all still breathing, you know, our steps are ordered. He helps us in ways that, you know, a lot of times we can't even comprehend until we look back in life.
Yeah.
You know, there was stuff that, you know, that I've gone through that it was like, if I hadn't been put in a bad situation and went through this, I wouldn't be who I am today, and I wouldn't have realized, oh, you've got some stuff you need to work on. Not saying I don't still, because, you know, we all do, but, you know, that's
discussion question number 2. I'm just kidding.
How can we balance celebrating others' achievements and dreams
I cannot get
with our
comfortable.
own
Can we please
aspirations? We'll just need new chairs. Our own aspirations and struggles.
Can we get the cool headsets too? Because I see all the cool people in podcasts have like headsets.
Never.
I don't want to plug
the
my
headphones. We don't.
I don't know. It looks cool.
How this works on here.
Okay. Well, that's fine. I guess we won't look cool.
They're doing it off of a computer. I have to run it through every other thing they have.
I know.
How can we balance celebrating others' achievements and dreams with our own aspirations and struggles?
So I literally just put this in the women's chat. I don't know if it was before or after his sermon. I think it was after. But I was upset, and I wrote something.
Well, I know for a lot of...
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, it's the Kelsey show tonight. Let's go.
Okay, perfect. No, I think I put this 7:02 a.m. What day is this?
You got to sit in front of the microphone.
Tuesday. I am. This was Tuesday. Okay, and I was really upset Tuesday. Anyway, I was mainly talking about, I was trying to pass on some encouragement for discouragement, encouragement for being discouraged. And I literally put what I think Jason just said. Yeah, I said comparison is is thief of joy, blah, blah, blah. And I had written down that compare means to estimate. I love words. Even though I don't know how to spell them very well, I literally love words and definitions. Compare means to estimate two similarities between things. And in Latin, it draws back to, literally says, to pair or to match. So I read that, and it's funny because we compare ourselves to people. So we compare ourselves, we try to pair, we try to match, but it's DNA is, we're not the same, even, down to, and I wrote, even about, twins that grow up, they're not even the same. You know what I mean? They're not, what?
Nothing.
So I just, and why do we do it? I really want to dig into that. Like, why do we compare? Why do we sit here and say, well, her body looks better than mine, or her situation's better than mine, or her life's better than mine, or she's doing this better than me, or whatever? Like, why? At what point in our brain, when does it flip and say, well, this person's better than me? Like, nobody is physically looking at you and saying, that person is way better. Well, some people, my ex did, but some people, why do we sit there and why do we compare? That's just something to think
Insecurity.
about when you sit there and you're feeling really insecure about something someone is doing to where you cannot celebrate their win or do anything like that. What is the root? To pair, to match. You want to match them.
It just boils back to insecurity. We know what we face. And I think, the whole comparison is the thief of joy thing. I love how Stephen Furtick said it,
Your dad.
I think, in one of the best ways, is that
Daddy Furtick.
we compare our behind the scenes with everyone else's highlight reels. So you go on. You can be burping up a storm in a minute.
No, I'm not.
We go on Facebook and social media and Instagram, and we see everyone's filtered pictures, all the you see the picture and you don't see, you see like a family portrait, and then it's edited and it looks all nice and it's pretty and everyone's smiling. You don't see that it was 97 photos before that. Mm-hmm. You don't see how they were screaming at each other, right before the picture was taken or right after. You don't see all of the stuff before that. Like that, you see fitness influencers, and now, there's just all of the, just like steroids
you
and
don't
stuff
see
like
their
things.
kidney
And
failure
you don't
in
see,
10 years because they're on 5 different steroids.
Yeah, you see them. You see them, and I think that right now too for women, it's more difficult because it's harder to see who exactly is using. But then you have all and it's the same thing with guys. You have those fake naturals, and then you have the fake naturals for women, and it's like you get people that look at this at their physique, and they're like, oh, I'm never going to be able to attain this, and then they're pushing it off as their normal and natural, mm-hmm. but they're using something that's making them gain an advantage and be able to reach a physique that you couldn't normally get within the time frame or something like that. And it's just that it's just everything now. So the farther we go, the more vain that we get.
So how can we balance that in celebrating others' achievements and dreams with our own aspirations, huh?
I didn't get there yet.
I know, but I'm just saying, how I'm keeping it on track here because
you
we
went
have
first.
The girls.
What do you mean?
So how can we balance celebrating each other's achievements and dreams with our own aspirations? I say there's no balance. Just literally bring encouragement to the table every single time. You don't need to balance it. Just you see somebody that's getting achievements, you bring encouragement to them.
Yeah, we've got such a problem with jealousy and insecurity. As soon as we see someone else achieving, we're upset that we're not achieving. If it's in the same realm. Now, obviously, I'm not watching someone that's a football star and I'm jealous of somebody that can play football because I don't care about football. But it's like with preaching, something that I care about and want to do. It's easy to look at someone else and be like, oh man, I can't wait to get to this. I wish I could do it like this. I wish I could do it like that. And it's like you don't see the behind the scenes struggle. You don't see the level of obedience and submittance.
That's why I try to remind you all the time.
You don't
when you talk
see
about Philip and what's his name?
Philip Anthony Mitchell. You don't see how long they've been doing it.
He literally has been.
Yeah, there's people that have been doing it a long, and that's why I've given up a lot of. I'm not gonna say I still don't have moments where I'm like, oh man, that was really good. I wish whatever. But from where I was to where I am now, especially after just not listening to anyone for a few months and having God refine me, that's just shifted my thinking. And for me, this is such a big problem in the church realm, in the realm of Christianity, because this is there's no reason why there should be any competition. It should just be collaboration. And I've been saying this since I began, and not that I'm waiting on it or care all that much about it or whatever. If it comes, it comes. But it's where are the people that are hey, let's collaborate, let's try to reach more people? You don't really get that, because we want, in general sense, churches, everybody's oh, we want ours to grow. We want ours to grow. And it's we also somehow, when we do that, we don't want the church down the street to grow. It's I don't care how big your building is. You physically cannot fit everyone in there. Mm-hmm. You just can't. So it's you need multiple churches, and we should just we should be working together. We're supposed to all be on the same team, and trying to all reach lost souls to go to heaven, to come into the kingdom. And it's that's why there shouldn't be competition, but constantly, as soon as you see someone else doing it, you're like, oh, that's not fair. Why do they get to grow? And then, there's just all of these butting heads within the realm of Christianity, because we can't just celebrate, wow, God's really moving in that church. I'm going to be happy for them. I'm going to pray that he keeps moving. I pray that he moves in greater ways and bigger ways and grows their church even more. And it's like we don't think about and realize that if we lived like that with not just the church, but with other people in our personal lives, like praying for their success when they have success, praying for more success and being happy and celebrating it, what would God send our way? Instead, we just cut it off by complaining because, we stop ourselves from attaining it because we just give into the lie that we're not going to attain it, and then we let jealousy get into our hearts, and then that festers into bitterness, and then before you know it, we're just stuck being mad all the time because, God's not moving in my life. Well, no wonder he's not, because you're too busy comparing yourself to someone else that he moved in.
Got stuck. You and I both got stuck in that little rut of being like mad and all the time, and it was just because of like the stuff that was happening that kept snowballing, and it was just frustrating. We felt like we were just hitting our heads against the wall, and we both were like, we have to just get out of this. But number 3 is really good, because that's hard to get pulled out of.
How can we reconcile the idea of God being with us during times when we feel abandoned or betrayed?
I feel like an old violin that just is doing the same story, but it's helpful. I mean, I was mad, when the first time when stuff wouldn't get dismissed and I kept having to do it and it wasn't getting taken away, and I kept having to deal with it, and it was frustrating. It's not an and for some people it can be an overnight thing. You can sit here, we're going through something, and you're going through a time where you're praying for this to happen, you're praying for your child to heal. Let's go real dark with this. Your child has cancer. You're praying for your child to heal. You've been going to church since you were a kid, and now your child has cancer, and you're praying over your child, and you're laying hands, and everyone's laying hands, and your child passes away. What do you do? I mean, that's just straight up. I know I went real dark with that, but that's someone's reality out there.
Yeah.
And so you feel abandoned or betrayed. Like, I have served on this team at church for years, and I have done this. My child been going to church, now my child has cancer, and you let him die. What do you do? How do you turn that around? How do you say, well, God's still with me?
Well, to me, and that's heavy, and that's deep, and that's something that a lot of people don't consider until they're in that situation. And I think, like Tanya said, we come out of that by looking back on what he has done, what he has done in your past, what he has done for you, what he has brought you out. And then there's the other side of it that you have, there's I don't want to put this, there's the peace that you get that passes understanding with God, with Jesus. And we know that in this life, we're going to face hell. We're going to face bad situations. We're going to face sickness. We're going to face death. That's just the reality of the fall of man. And that's what's, sad and depressing about a situation like that, is that it's no one's, and don't take this the wrong way, but it's nobody's fault but our own. It's humanity's fault because God gave us everything perfect in the beginning, and we decided, no, we want something more. We want more. This isn't good enough. And then we sinned. We brought sin into the world. That's what brought cancer and disease and all of this other just nastiness.
And sunscreen about cancer.
And so,
it's
like that, where you just, you have to remember and look back on what God has done. And then you need to step into that submittance of just like, God, I don't know what your will is in this. I don't know what it is.
Right.
And continue to press in and seek him, because the natural thing is just to get mad and angry.
Oh, for sure.
But it's when you step aside and push into him and get closer in your grieving and in your anger, that he can still reveal himself to you. There's something like someone I talked to a while ago that was just, they were angry and they were mad and they were talking about, and I was like, hey, you need to just take it to God in prayer and get real with him.
Were you talking to me?
No. And they were like, well, no, he doesn't want me to do that. I might say something. And it's like, you think he doesn't know that? You think he doesn't know how you're feeling? You think he doesn't know what's going to come out of your mouth? Mm-hmm. You think he's afraid of the angry words that you're going to say to him? You think he's afraid and upset that you're mad at him, that you're going to say you hate him, but you don't really hate him, you're just angry at him? You think he's upset when you cuss at him in prayer because you're just angry? Like, there's so much that we just withhold from God, even though he knows all about it. And people don't realize, like, prayer is your time to speak to him, to get intimate with him, to voice your feelings, your opinion, your concerns, whatever it is, to vent it all out and lay it before him. But it's like, instead of that, we either just bottle it all up inside, or we go to prayer and then we bottle up that little aspect of it instead of letting it all just go and laying it all before him. It's like we're scared to get real with God. I mean, you look at Jesus on the way to the cross, he was in so much anguish and stress because he knew what was coming. He knew the pain, and not just the pain, but what was worse for him, worse than the pain, was the separation from the Father, was that feeling of, because we don't think about that. We get conviction and we feel the weight of our sin, and it gets heavy at times. Like when you do something really wrong and you mess up, and then you just feel that conviction and you feel the weight of your sin. We need to step back and realize he felt that, but then he felt every sin that you have and will commit. Mm-hmm. And then not only yours, but literally every single person throughout the history of humanity, everyone past and everyone still to come in the future, all of their sins throughout their entire lives, he felt the weight of that upon him. And then he felt the weight of the separation between him and the Father. And it's like, man, there is no greater anguish than that. And he felt that going up to the cross, and it put so much stress on him that I don't know the term for the medical condition, but it caused the capillaries to burst, and it caused blood to mix with his sweat. That's why he was sweating drops of blood, because he was just so stressed about what he was about to walk into. But then he still goes forth and does it. So, I don't know if that's for somebody, but it's just like those heavy moments, those deep moments, those stressful moments. It's like you can look at Jesus and realize, and it's easy for people to look at me like, oh, well, he's Jesus, he's God. Well, he's still the model that we're supposed to conform to. He's still the image that we're supposed to bear. He's still the example that we're supposed to live by and try to strive towards. So it's like, when you get into a stressful situation, you can still sit before God, and he prayed it, if it be, take this cup from me. But he said, nevertheless, let your will be done, not mine. But we don't come to God like that. We come up and we're like, I'm mad you did this. I'm mad you did that. I'm mad that this is happening. I'm mad that this is going on. Why can't you change this? Why can't you do this situation? And we don't, how often do we step into a situation that's like that, and we're like, okay, God, I don't know what the heck is going on, and I'm really angry about it, but I'm assuming that this is your will because you're going to work it out for my good in the long run either way. So, I mean, losing a child, I can't imagine anything worse than that. But I do know that if you're raising up a godly child and a child that believes, and, obviously, I don't know the age, but, if a child dies, they're going to go to heaven. There's not going to be a baby in hell. So it's like, for a lot of the case, or well, not a lot of the case, but some of the case, the healing, we want the healing to be, they get over the sickness and then they're still with us. Sometimes it's God's will that the healing that he gives them is eternal healing, and they don't have to walk through a broken, sinful humanity and experience
or 10 years
depravity,
of
think about that. We don't know his will. That's the thing. He's outside of time. He does the best option, And sometimes that healing is just taking them into his house. And we don't like that because we selfishly, we want them to still stay here. But it's like, you don't realize, man, like that, they don't have to ever be sick again. They don't have to, scrape their knee on the sidewalk. They don't have to feel bullying in school. They don't have to feel sin against them. They're just in eternal glory.
So, number 4, how does the concept of, the comment went up there, but just for YouTube people that can't see Mitch's thing, he was saying that,
which one?
Saying that the sooner Christians recognize that God doesn't owe us anything.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, that's not obviously. What did I say? Obviously, absolutely is what I meant to say.
He doesn't. He already gave us everything.
So, how does the concept of nothing is wasted in our spiritual journey challenge or comfort us in our failures and setbacks? Okay, so you can correct me live if you would like.
Oh, great.
But and I'm not arguing against like the concept of nothing is wasted in our spiritual journey challenge. Like I'm not arguing that that's a concept, that nothing is wasted, right? Like you can get comforted in all your dark times and your past and be turning a new leaf, and you have a new life, and none of that was wasted because it's a testimony, right? And I may be totally wrong in saying this, but on the flip side, like it absolutely can be wasted. It absolutely can be wasted. You think about people that go through things, and they go through things, and let's take a first option. They go through things that are, massive sin, mess up, shame, whatever the case may be, and they get saved, and they have a new life, and they share half their testimony, or they don't share all of their testimony. To me, yes, it's helping you in other ways that you walked through it. But if you're not fully 100% sharing what you went through before you got saved, I feel like that's wasted.
Oh, yeah, what you're
You know what I'm
describing is us wasting it.
Yeah.
Not God, because God's not.
That's why I was saying I'm not going with that concept and going against like what he was saying, that God's saying nothing is wasted. I'm saying like we can waste
Oh yeah,
it.
we definitely can. I mean, you think of just your mentality to what God brings you through.
To me, that should like challenge, like in our spiritual journey, challenge or comfort us. You should not feel comfortable. You should not feel comfortable going in any aspect, talking to someone one-on-one or sharing out, and only sharing 20% of your testimony. The 20% that makes you look kind of bad enough to where people can say, oh, wow, you've walked, I'm so glad Jesus got a hold of you. No. Like, you should not feel comfortable after you share that, knowing that there's more to that story.
It's just misleading, and to me...
I know that took a left turn, and that's not what that's about. But, hey, Chase, you know what I mean? To me, that's wasted. You're wasting it. It. And you're wasting it. You're knowingly wasting it. Shame on you. I'm just saying, like you should feel uncomfortable. You should feel convicted.
Yeah, because that's, to me... to me, when you have a testimony for a reason, and your testimony is your weapon. And I don't know if that's one of the discussion things, but I remember one of the things that he said was that your worst is your weapon. When you go through something and you come out of like a deep drug addiction for years,
that would have been a good one.
That is a testimony. That's a tool, because you know how I say it. Like when someone comes into a church and they're real people, they're going through real problems and real issues. Mm-hmm. And when you come into a building and you see someone that's portraying themselves as completely perfect and spotless and without sin, number one, they're like, okay,
Run.
well, you're a hypocrite. You're a hypocrite because I know you're sinful. Or number two, if they don't think that and they're like, man, look at how perfect this guy is. He's got it all together. I'm never going to attain that. And then they're going to think that Jesus and Christianity is just not approachable because they see, oh, well, I don't have it all together. They have it all together. And clearly you can't come to God unless you have it all together. And that's just the false thing of the enemy, the false lie of the enemy. And same thing like that. Like you come through something and you have this beautiful, I don't care how nasty it is, it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. The only reason that you think it's nasty is when you're still doing that and you're letting Satan hold it over your head still. And that's the thing, like withholding part of it. So when you're withholding part of your testimony, to me, and what immediately pops in
Tia just sent me a song that she wants to eventually sing, and it's literally called "Nothing Is Wasted."
Yeah, it's an old Elevation song. Yeah,
that's crazy.
A long time ago.
Okay, well, I just thought it was cool because it was talking about what we're talking
keep
about.
making me lose my train of thought.
Sorry, now you know how I feel.
Woman, I have sat here so quietly the entire time when you have talked through
Hashtag
all
Team
of your
Kelsey.
stuff. Never mind. You know what? Just go on.
And now we're going to sing the song.
So, to me, what pops into mind when you withhold part of your testimony, to me, that is like the serpent in the garden.
Yeah.
He twisted God's word. So, to me, when you're not giving your full testimony, you're twisting your testimony to make it into something that it's not. So, you have to take the good with the bad. That's the whole reason, the whole purpose of the testimony is that it speaks to everything. I mean, you look at the Bible throughout the Old Testament and it lays everything out. Nothing is withheld.
Nice.
You get to see what David went through. You get to see everything that he did, and he's called a man after God's own heart. But what's part of his testimony? That he literally committed adultery and had the husband killed. And then part of that other testimony is that she got pregnant, and then David's laying on his face before God, praying that the child won't die because the child's sick, and then the child dies. The minute the child dies, he gets up and he's done because he knows he can't change God's will, and that was God's will to that the child was taken. So it's like that. Like, you're withholding your testimony.
Like, think about that story in
and
the
you're
Bible
taking some of the power away. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's the whole purpose of the testimony is you get all of it. You get to see, man, I was a messed up person. I was living like hell, living for hell, and then God got me and brought me out of that hell. And this is what I went through. But if you're just like, I went through some stuff, there's a little bit here, and then I came to church and I found God, like that. You're withholding your testimony, and then you're doing it to paint
if that's your true testimony, like, that's fine. Like, no, we're not.
Well, no, I'm not saying that, but that's not what we're talking about. Is something that's not your true testimony because you're being, to me, it stems back to pride, and you're trying to paint yourself in a little bit better light. That way, people won't judge you. Mm-hmm. And when you're doing it in that moment, it's rooted in pride. It's rooted in vanity. It's rooted in wanting to appear good before men. It's rooted in you're worried about the opinions of man. Mm. It's rooted in I want them to think better of me, and I don't want them to judge me. But it's like you're lying. You're literally lying in that moment. You're committing a sin by not giving the full story that you went through with God, and he brought you out of it, and he wants that full story. That's how he gets the whole glory from it. He doesn't get the glory when you withhold information to make yourself look better. Then you're just worried about painting the false picture, and you're a hypocrite just like the Pharisees were.
Oh.
And that's what people don't like. That's why a lot of people stay out of church, because that's just continuing the cliche of Christianity that we're a bunch of hypocrites that think we have it all together.
For the dumbest things. I stayed out of church just because of outfits, man. Like, people definitely stay out of church because they think they're not good enough.
For a lot of people, they're looking for any reason not to come. Yeah. And then a lot of people on the inside, they look for any reason to leave. So the point of that is to be as real and authentic as possible, like God is. Yeah. And then you remove that. Yeah. And that's the thing of taking ownership of your sin, taking ownership of your testimony. Like, I did this, but look where I am now. Look where God brought me now. Yeah. Look at what I went through and who I am now because of God. And then that's how he gets the glory. That's how people see how to come to Christ. That's how people see, like, man, if I was just like, yep, I grew up in church and here I am preaching, that does nothing. But if I say my testimony of, I went through this and I walked away from God and left the church and went through hell and went and did all this and got a divorce and did all of this and all of that and all of that, and it was a big mess. Man, that just shows like, hey, just because I grew up in church didn't mean squat.
Yeah.
I rejected God. I clearly went away from God and I turned my back on him, and then he brought me back into it. And now look at me. See, if you didn't know who I was before and you only saw me now, you'd think, oh, I've got it all together. That's the point of the testimony.
I mean, you're stretching it with
I definitely don't have it all together. I do not claim to have it all together in any way. I hope no one ever thinks
you're so grumpy tonight
of me. I'm not grumpy. You're making me grumpy.
You need bacon?
No, what?
Oh, I don't know. I know I keep calling out Mitch though, but that's cool that people love a good before and after photo. For sure. I like to be able to tell the difference on like a weight loss photo or anything like that,
But you have to be true, and that's a thing too, then
the difference between being comforted and comfortable.
Like the fitness industry and lying about your testimony or not giving the full picture of the testimony. There's a lot of the false pictures in the fitness industry where they take the before and the after picture literally 5 minutes apart. They just stand different, change the lighting, change shorts, and then they hold their stomach out. And it's just, that's the same thing. You're presenting a false image.
Yeah.
Number 5. And then
some people can tell that that's false, like you and I can. And so that's the thing about testimonies. Some people know what you've actually gone through. So when they see you saying stuff and you're sugarcoating it or you're not saying the full truth, it's like those before and after photos.
Yeah.
Someone's going to know. But if you've got true before and after photos, it's the coolest thing.
That's why you keep it authentic, you keep it real, you keep it humble and just transparent. There's no sense in not being transparent. We should be. That's why I'm so big on transparency, because, there's too many people on platforms that talk the talk and they don't walk the walk.
Yeah.
And, man, that's how a lot of people are getting misled by false teachers, or even if they're not a false teacher, it's still somewhat false when you're up here and you're saying one thing to the congregation, and then, there's a couple of people that are really close to you in your circle. And they're like, that's not how that happened. That's not real. What do you mean? That's not even how you really act. Why are you acting like this?
Yeah, all the stories you say, I do something. I've never done any of those things.
I mean, we up here talking about lying.
All right, discussion number
5. In what ways can we become people of impact in our communities while maintaining humility and dependence on God?
So hard. Seriously, though.
What?
You got to think about that. That is hard.
In what ways can we become people of impact?
Because you got to think about it. I'm not going to say that on here. I don't want to call anyone out.
Well, to me, maybe I'm just a little different, but to me, I don't find that hard, because to me, all of that maintaining humility and dependence on God, all of that stems from obedience. All of that stems from submittance. And, I guess in a sense it is hard when we withhold full obedience, when we withhold full submittance. And that's when it becomes hard, because God asks us to, what was I saying? Hold on. God asks us to lay things down, and when we don't fully surrender and don't fully trust in His will, we don't fully trust in His saving grace, we withhold things from Him. And as I've said, I don't know how many times, but partial obedience is still disobedience. If He tells you to walk a mile and you walk 3/4 of a mile, even one step shorter, that's still disobedience. When He asks you to fully lay something down, that's still disobedience. I think I said that wrong a second ago. It's still disobedience. So to me, you can become a person of impact in one of two ways. You can become a true person of impact for the kingdom by truly submitting to God in obedience, remaining humble by staying focused on Him, not on you, not on the blessings that He puts in your life, not on the people and the influence and anything that He gives you, you will be a person of true impact by fully submitting to Him and letting I don't know how to put it, so how I'm going to say it is, letting Him crush your flesh, asking Him to crush your flesh, to wring that sin out of your life. And then as you do that, as you humbly submit to Him, that's when He lifts you up and he gives that influence. But there's the other side where there's plenty of people, I haven't looked at it yet, there's plenty of people that they become people of impact, but in the false sense. And they're raised up not by God, they're raised up, what I believe, by the enemy. And you see, think about it, like celebrities all over the world that have all of this impact, but it's false impact. And they give money to charity and they do this and they do, okay, cool. Are they living for God? No, then they're a plant by Satan. If you're not on team God, you're literally by default on team Satan. There's no middle ground. I said this the other day. So to me, that's just my thing, is like you're either submitted to God or you're submitted to Satan. And when you just, I'm living for myself, I'm building it, well, no, then you're submitted to Satan because you're not living for God. So to me, I say it's easy, but I understand how it is hard, because it is hard to lay everything down for God. But when you do, then that's when it becomes easy. As you start surrendering, you start submitting, then it's easy. So I guess they're both true, because it's hard to start doing it. And then it's hard for certain areas, but that's the point. That's the point of submittance. If it was easy, then literally everyone would do it. There would be no problems in the world. We wouldn't have sin because we stayed obedient and we submitted to Him.
So the saying, we are not saying that a person is fake if they don't continue to wear their past sins, but grow from them and use them as growth to minister to others. So my question would be, how are you going to minister to others if you don't give your full testimony? I don't believe that I don't know how one would be wearing their sins just by sharing their full testimony. Walking around saying, hey, Jared had an affair with me when he was married and we ended up getting together. I'm not walking around saying that. I'm not wearing that sin. I feel I would be wearing that sin if I didn't tell everybody that asked for my testimony, and I didn't tell them the 100% what I went through, what I did. If I'm hiding certain things in my testimony, I'm continuing to wear that sin, and I'm continuing to wear that shame. But if I give my full testimony and say, listen, I was a part of an adulterous relationship. I used to drink too much when I was in the Army. I cussed all the time. You know what I mean? And then look at me now. You know what I mean? And it's like, now we're trying to lead people to Jesus once we were just living the worst path in the world. Well, not in the world. Okay, that was a little dramatic. But, living such a horrible path, hurting people, hurting ourselves, all these type of things, acting out, just, going to bars every Friday and Saturday night, when we didn't have the kids, I'm not telling someone that full story every time I meet them. Hi, I'm Kelsey. Guess what I used to do? You know what I mean? That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about if someone says, hey, what's your testimony? Or, hey, let me minister you about Jesus. And they're like, how would you know anything about hard times? Well, hey, listen, let me tell you something about what I walked through. That's not wearing your sin. If you truly have repented and released yourself of that sin, not release yourself, but God has released you of that sin, it is not possible for you to wear it. So it doesn't matter how much you talk about it or how much of anything, it's not possible for you to wear it anymore. If you have truly repented and He has washed you clean, all the talking about what you've done in your past to help someone, to minister to someone, you couldn't wear it for 1 second of the day. And that's that. So no, that's not being fake. That's if you continue to feel shame about what you've done in the past and continue to hide it, that is continuing to wear your sin. That is continuing to really keep your shame going. But the fact that I'm no longer going to allow the devil to keep me from, oh my gosh, what if someone finds out I did this? Or what if someone's find out this is how we started? Or, we used to tell people we met in the gym, and we leave it at that. No, you were married and we met in the gym. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, it is not cute. It's not pretty. It's a horrible beginning of a relationship. And it sucks because that for the rest of our life, that's how I get to introduce it. But I'm no longer going to sit here and be ashamed of it and say, yeah, dude, it was so wrong. I don't recommend it. 10 out of 10, don't recommend. We're still paying the consequences of our horrible actions, but you don't wear it anymore. You absolutely, it's not a part of your fit, but it was a part of your closet at one point. But it doesn't mean that's the outfit you need to put on every single day. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you want to preach Mother's Day?
No, I'm just saying.
Just do like a whole sermon.
I'm just saying.
My cheeks hurt. I'm smiling so hard.
It's you're doing yourself a disservice if you just want to, just minister to people and just tell them about Jesus. That's not a part of, didn't even Paul tell his story when he was Saul?
Of what?
Who he used to be.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, did he wear that? Oh, Riley, antibiotics. Did he wear that? No. Would you say that Paul was wearing his sin?
Well, you went exactly where I was going to go in that when you come to Christ and you confess your sins,
it's gone, baby.
You're literally
if you're still wearing
you're clothed
then you
in
have
righteousness.
Not repented.
The image is that he removes your sin. He takes that garment of sin off of you and then clothes you. You're given new, spotless clothes that you're literally clothed in his righteousness. So you perfectly put it. You cannot physically still wear that sin. That's not a garment that you still wear. The fun way to put this is. Here's a great question. Are you as righteous as Jesus?
No.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, guys.
The answer is, but and the only reason I asked that is because I saw it the other day.
Why would you spring that on me?
Because it's a point. So I saw that the other day, and it's like
the answer is yes.
Your instant reaction to that, and for a lot of people, is no. No, I'm not as righteous as Jesus, because that's how we feel. But the reality is, and that just means, and I'm not saying it to pick on you because I was like, oh, well, no, but I wasn't thinking correctly. The reality is, yes, you are. When God looks at you, he sees Jesus because you're covered in Jesus' blood, because you're covered by that sacrifice, because your debt is paid. So, you still struggle with sin, yes, but when God looks at you because you're in his Son, you're sealed with the Holy Spirit, you're righteous. You're as righteous as Jesus. That's the gospel, that you have been... that his life was given for yours and you were bought, like the redemption, you being bought. You weren't bought on layaway. You weren't bought with payments to where, it's not like a car where, my name is on the title, my name is on the deed, but the bank still owns it and I'm making payments to the bank. No, baby, God paid the ultimate price, the full price for you. You are just as righteous as he is. That's how he views you. That's the beauty of the gospel, is that I don't feel righteous, but I am righteous because God has declared me righteous. That's literally 2 Corinthians 5:21. We are his righteousness because of Christ. That's the beauty of it. And that's, many people would say, oh no, I'm not because I'm not Jesus, because I'm not as good as Jesus.
I'm gonna tell you right now.
When he looks at me, he sees Jesus because Jesus took my place.
If I start a new job, let's say I'm a new nurse, and I'm a student nurse, and I go in and I got nurse A and nurse B, and nurse A is has never done anything wrong, and she's telling me how to do something, and she's never done anything wrong. I'm going to be pretty nervous. And I'm going to be pretty nervous because I'm going to be like, okay, well, what if I do this? And she's like, well, I don't know. I've never done that. that way. I've always done it this exact way by the textbook, and this is how you need to do it. I'm going to be like, well, what if I don't? What is going to happen? Well, I don't know what's going to happen. I've never done it that way. And then you have Nurse B that's like, hey, sister, so I have messed up this, and this, and I have blown this IV before. Let me tell you, don't push the IV too fast. It might blow it, so don't do that, okay? So do it a couple seconds at that. Don't immediately slam this IV. Why? Because it'll blow the vein. Why do you know that? Because I've blown a vein before. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to want to be with Nurse B. Tawny's going to know what I'm talking about. I'm going to want to be with Nurse B because now she's explained to me, well, if you push too fast, it's going to blow the IV. Where Nurse A has no clue because Nurse A's never blown a vein before.
Yeah.
Or saying she's never blown a vein before.
Think about David and the mighty men. It was all the messed up, dirty guys that have gone through all this stuff, and that's who he surrounded himself with, and that's who they won great battles with. Who was Jesus surrounded by?
And I'm telling you right now, if you're sitting here thinking, well, I've never messed up,
wrong.
Hockey sticks.
Wrong. Everyone has sinned. The Bible literally says no one is good. We've all sinned. We've all fallen short. There is no one on earth that is good. The only good person that came is sitting in heaven right now, and he paid the price for us. They killed literally the only innocent man ever. The only innocent man ever, because we all have
some people think that you have to, like, sinning is like drugs, alcohol abuse, adultery.
Sinning is just missing the mark.
Yeah.
And we all miss the mark.
It can be anything. I mean, I've sinned today. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I said bad word today. 2, 3, 4.
Just stop counting.
Okay. But it can be overindulgence of any, you know what I mean? It's crazy. So, I just encourage you, man, drop the pride. If you're someone that's sitting here right now listening to us and being like, well, that's ridiculous. Like, I've never, we're all with sin.
Everyone.
We are literally all with sin.
I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's your my grandmother, who was an absolute saint that, like, I don't think she ever even drank alcohol or nothing. She still had sin. She still had sin. Everyone has sin. I don't care who. I don't care how perfect you think your mom was, or your dad, or your baby, or whatever. Everyone has sinned. Every single person other than Jesus has sinned. That's biblical. So if you literally think that anyone has not sinned in your life that you know of, and you're like, well, they didn't sin. No, you were wrong. Absolutely wrong. And that's just the nature of it. We all
What's the verse?
sin.
For we have all sinned and fallen short.
I don't remember right now. I'm terrible at, like, remembering all the numbers.
You're terrible. I'm terrible. Yeah. I didn't even finish the sentence because I was scared I was messing up.
No, I suck with remembering, like, chapter and verse. I just remember the words.
Just don't say crap.
Okay. But no, like that. I mean, you think of
we gotta roll.
Who Jesus surrounded himself with, and all God is able to use is sinners, like that. So, I mean, think about it. Like, Jesus came down and he still gets a bunch of ragtag, just common people. Mm-hmm. Case in point, when they come to arrest him, Peter chops a dude's ear off. Like, he was about that life. He was ready to roll out.
I love Peter.
And
Peter's my homie.
And that's the thing. It's just like I don't get just this false thing that we want. Like, God desires perfection, but we all miss the mark.
Your dad loves David, but he has to admit he's a little more Peter than he is David.
So, well, that's a funny story. So, I think something really awesome that I've heard, and we can end on this because it's just going to ruffle a bunch of feathers, and I love it.
Oh, Lord.
A lot of people, they're like, oh, I love David, and, slay your giant, and, you got to charge that giant, like David did, and be like David and all that. David was a picture of Jesus. Goliath is obviously a picture of sin. You look at, it's representing, Jesus versus evil, Jesus versus the devil. It literally says Goliath's armor had scales. It was pointing back to the serpent. And so he charges in, and everybody, I want to be like David. I want to crush my giant. And I'm not doubting that at all. Like, yes, there's giants and that we can crush and all that. But one of the greatest things I heard about that is, for all the people that are like, I'm like David. I'm David. No, the reality is in that situation, we were the Israelites that were sitting there cowering under Goliath as he was taunting us.
Say that again? Sorry.
If you just get off your phone and pay attention to me for 5 minutes. Gosh. I don't remember what I said. No, because we're all like, I'm like David. I want to charge Goliath and I want to charge the giants. And again, like I'm not saying, we don't do that and we don't crush giants with God and all that. In that story, he's representing Jesus. You're still doing it. You're not even listening.
I'm listening. I was trying to get the girls to come say bye. Go ahead.
No, I've already said it. You weren't paying attention twice. So Sunday, you'll have to go back and watch it now. Sunday is Resurrection Sunday. We are celebrating.
Everybody pray for Jared. Right now.
We're celebrating the resurrection of Jesus Christ when he died on Friday. That's Good Friday this week. And then he rose again on the third day to wash us of our sins, to be the propitiation for our sins, to literally be the sacrifice that we could not be, to pay the debt that we could not pay in order to wash us clean, make us white as snow. So Sunday, we are celebrating that. We've got,
You're nervous.
No, I'll be all right. I'll tell you now, don't miss it. The set list, we're running an extended set list to be like Revival Night. I made a little, I don't know, I think it's cool. I made a little opener for the intro song.
Hey, I hope that message spoke to you today. I want to say thank you to everybody who is involved at Family Church and those who help support this ministry. If you would like to get more involved, you can click the link in the description or head to our website, familychurch.social. We would love to connect with you, and you can find all of our social media platforms on our website. Also, if this message spoke to you in any way today and you liked it, consider sharing it on your social media in any way that you would like so that we can help reach those far from God and return them to the arms of the Father. We want to see God work through you. We love you. Thanks again for listening. God bless you.